I always say you always want to people always overestimate the short term in 2 to 3 months. And I think a lot of us here are really selling ourselves short in the long run, in 2 to 3 years. And so my talk today is how to get to 1% income. To me, the only reason why I'm fixated about this 1% is because it's kind of this mythical dragon in the press, right? It's kind of this thing in the news they always bring up as this talking point. And really, the only difference between 1% performers when it comes to finances and people who make normal average money, there's just little shifts. And I'm just going to repeat the same things other people said in my way, the way I know how to do it. And so let me start off with income, right? So we start off here with, if it works, there we go. So we kind of have four income sources, right? So we have our linear income, we have our leveraged income, our passive income, and our windfall. For most people in this room, you are probably linear, right? This is, you get paid for either time spent or a salary. If you stop working, you stop getting paid. Leverage income would be lead gen. You build these sites, you rank them up, you give leads to a business owner, get them on as a client. There's still a little bit of maintenance here and there. Every once in a blue moon, you might have to switch that client out, but there's leverage. You're not selling your time for dollars. Passive income is something, let's say, like you're giving a loan out or something like interest where you don't really have a lot of hand holding on it. And then windfall is your great grandfather died and left you with, the thrones of the castle. So for most people, this is what income looks like right now. The goal with 1%ers is they typically have a distribution closer to this. And so to me, I think we can all agree in this room that our goal here is to create more passive and leverage income. I think that's the universal theme for every single person in this room. There's a problem though, and that problem is simply that creating passive income requires time. It requires time. And this is where a lot of people it really messes with their head, because in the job world, you're used to doing something and you immediately get a feedback out of it. You work that hour, you get paid that hour. You work that job, you get paid that paycheck. In the passive income world, you can be working for a period of time and you almost have to have a little bit of this blind faith that at some point you're going to hit the tipping point where you're going to get paid, right? You're in entrepreneurship, you're either underpaid or you're overpaid. There's times when I first started with Dan and we would work really hard, and I'm talking nights and weekends, and people, I remember those weird roommates I was staying with, because I'd come home so late and you're driving me at night, they would say things like, you should look at labor laws, and if you divide how many hours you're working and kind of all this, like, you should really can tell us this, and to me, I'm like, I know what entrepreneurship's like, where now on the flip end, we were in Miami for a week, and I know my hour didn't make sense financially on the other end of the spectrum. It didn't make sense to get paid that much for chilling out in Miami for a week. And that's really what entrepreneurship is. So one is it requires time, and two, it's not always easy. It's not always fun. And this is the repeated theme across over and over and over, that while this business is simple, if this was super fun, then everyone would just go out and do it, right? Things that are fun are demerit in nature, right? It's fun to drink. It's fun to chill out. It's fun to watch TV. If these things work, if it's easy to do this, everyone would do it. So those are the two things with passive income. But why do we do it? Why are we in this room right now? Well, the reason why we're in this room is because it's worth it. And I want to really sell everyone on this concept of looking at the reward and making that pain of the reward is so great and make your current situation so painful that kind of that tension between the two is going to get you to move out of the current direction. Because the biggest issue with most of us from where we are now to getting to where we want to go is comfort. It's as much as we like the scenario of passive income, we like the idea of making a lot more money, it's just not uncomfortable enough. It's just not, I like it, but my life isn't that bad. And so we have to create these situations in our head. So the first thing I want to do is I want to sell the concept of kind of wealth, what it means. I think one of the biggest things that we have is we only think about wealth in terms of like, these materialistic objects, right? But to me, I'll tell you some of the wins I've had. For me, It was not having to read the right side of a menu. That was, to me, one of the biggest things. When I walk into a restaurant, I just didn't want to go and say, okay, what's the cheapest thing on this menu? What's the best value? To me, I wanted to walk in and just order what I wanted. That was a really, it sounds so silly, but to me, especially being a college student, it was a big deal. I think every time I had to deal with my friends. To me, being able to fly whenever, wherever. My parents live overseas in India, and so to me, I just knew that with my family growing up, trips would be like 6 months out. It'd be, what's the cheapest airline on the back? I'll probably, they'll probably buy me a seat with the dogs downstairs in the luggage compartment. How do we make it impossibly cheap to fly on some weirdo airline where, you're probably going to fall, it's bad. So I was like, I just want to be able to buy flights whenever. For a lot of you, maybe it's family, it's people outside yourself, retiring parents, retiring relatives. For those who have kids, putting your kids in good schools and colleges. Peace of mind's a big one. It's a really big one. It's people talk about financial confidence or this financial freedom where, if I have a few million in the bank, I'm going to go do nothing and go on a beach. The problem with this is that if that was the case, every single person that's known as great would have retired a long time ago, right? Oprah, Steve Jobs, these people, they would just be on a beach, and you go to the beach and be like, man, that's a lot of people there. Peace of mind is really what the winning move is for me. So this is more than yachts, mansions, and Lambos. This is the scenario that I think a lot of us on our apps, we kind of start into this business with this, I call it the idealistic scenario. And I put Ned Flanders because there's this amazing Ned Flanders impression that I'm going to butcher, so I'm not going to try it. But it basically goes like, you know what? If I just work an hour a day and, if I just get one client a month and I just do this every month, and you kind of build a scenario, right? And we've all probably done this in the beginning, and we build this beautiful table and we get our calculators out, maybe just me because I'm the nerd here, but you build this graph and basically say, wow, if I just work the 4-hour work week at the end of the year, check this out, right? And statistically, the average American makes about $52,000. So what does that mean? It means screw my boss, right? I'm out of here. I'm quitting my job. It means I'm on the beach. I'm retired. The problem is that even though this is possible, and the truth is to get to a dollar amount, especially the lower dollar amounts, yeah, you can do this business this way. There's nothing wrong with building the business this way. The reason why it doesn't happen as much as people say it does is because the think is too small and there's just not enough action or momentum where you guys can actually feel the other end of the business. Going back to when you're underpaid or overpaid in entrepreneurship, when you work a part-time schedule, it's just too much time between the end result of what you want, and that's why you never really feel like you're getting anywhere in business. And so to me, I really do believe boredom's the enemy. I really believe that's what causes humans to do everything bad that we've ever done. Usually we can boil it down to boredom. We just always want to be entertained, right? And so to me, it's about challenging yourself. So here's an interesting statistic. People in entrepreneurship, when they get into businesses like this, they can only, on average, visualize about double the income that they currently make. You make 50 grand a year, maybe on your app, 100K a year is the goal, right? You think about you make 20K a year, 40K a year. Man, that 4K a month sounds awesome, right? And what happens is that this is kind of what I call very linear thinking, right? Okay, I make X, if I can go to 2X, that's good. And so what I want to sell you on today is just this concept of 100 days of intensity, and to really get to a level that almost seems unreasonable. It almost seems unbelievable. If you're making 50K a year, it's the Simons who drove a truck for 40K a year and can get the 650K a year. This is what I call exponential growth. And so the reason why this works to me of a short period of time that's concentrated focus is because success loves speed. The reason why is because, one, it's efficient. Two, it's effective because you're compressing time. You're getting obsessed. That's all you think about. One thing that's really fascinating with us, we're in Miami and we're in beautiful hotels and there's water and all these things. That's literally all we talk about is business, and we're talking about lead gen, and we're talking about Like, this is who we are. We're really obsessed about it. And I think more so now having money than we were when we were broke, right? Because the truth is that most of the successful people that you're looking at now, especially us who are 4 years ahead of new students, they had a short period of time. Every single one of them they can point to where they got obsessed, completely addicted. Like, this is like their drug addiction for a short period of time. So here's the problem, though. The problem with this is that you end up in these categories of people, which for a lot of you, it's probably your relatives, your friends, and some might have some self-assessment. This might be you, but one is the pessimist, right? The pessimist says, joining this business, it's probably not going to work. I'm going to lose my money. I'm going to get divorced. Sucks. And then probably most people in this room actually would fall in this category. This is what I call the realist. The realist says, okay, I'm at $2,000 a month. I think I can get, a Legion site or two, and I'm going to aim for 4 Legion sites. The realist to me is okay. The problem with the realist is that the realist is the person where if you set a goal. So let's say you make $2K a month, your goal is to make $4K a month. If you miss it and hit $3K a month, the next time you set your next goal, you're going to lower that target. Because that's realistic. You keep using data points to justify your realism, right? And this is the realist. To get to these huge levels of growth, right? We're talking 1%. There's a third category of person. And this person's called the visionary. The visionary is a person where they set their target to the sky. They never hit it, but just the attempt to that goal, they land in a whole new dimension, in a whole new stratosphere of results. And all of us here had to have a period of time where we had to separate our current circumstance from where we wanted to go, right? I had to like literally in my mind mentally switch off the fact that I'm staying on a $100 mattress in a weird house, right? Or whatever, or I'm living with my grandma with no money. I had to switch that off from in my head, complete like freedom, huge income, huge results, huge time freedom, traveling. This is a visionary. The problem is 98% of people, your friends, family, relatives, they fall into one of these two categories. They're either the pessimist or the realist. And the visionary is about 2% of people. These are your right? And on the extreme examples, these are your Elon Musk, these are your Bill Gates, things of that nature. So let's jump on in. Here's the problem. When you set these huge goals, these huge landmarks, you have the biggest issue you run into is you get a lot of mental toughness. You have to have what we call rhino skin because when you go and tell someone, and I don't know if any of you have ever done this. You tell someone your goal, and you say, "I really want to, I want to build $1 million a year business, or I want to travel the world." What's the reaction? The reaction is usually, like one of these people, right? It's really difficult. It's incredibly mentally tough. You get haters. People will doubt you. The number of times my parents told me to just shut up and just go back to engineering is so many times. I mean, it got to a point where even as I had a little bit of success, it would be the sky is falling. But what if Google goes away, is what my mom would say. Literally, what if Google would go away? What would happen, right? And so there's haters. And imbalance. You're not going to have your perfect cookie cutter schedule where you have every day. It's like, I have this beautiful window of time I can go out and this beautiful window of time with kids. There's going to be seasons where you're going to be putting intense focus, intense work. And there's going to be seasons where it's the other way, where you're going to have all the time in the world. That's a big mindset shift because a lot of us, we think on kind of this daily regimen of, okay, it's 6 p.m. now I'm free. There's times in entrepreneurship where to really hit these high levels of success, you're going to have short periods of time where you're going to be cutting everything out, sacrificing everything. There's going to be periods of time where you have unlimited time. And then it's lonely. It's really, really lonely. There's a reason why, for me, the people who I talk to most are usually some of these people in this room. So I talk to very few people a lot of the time because you're kind of a weirdo. You kind of have to turn into kind of this freak, this anomaly, because it's really hard to explain to people this ambition that seems unrealistic. But why do we do it? Why do people shoot for the moon? Why do we shoot for these big goals, these big dreams? The reason why is because it's exponential life change, right? We're talking exponential, going from 2K to 200K, going from 40K to 650K. These are massively different results, right? And what's really nice is the end result of it is admiration and respect. I've had family members turn around and say, you know what, that crazy business thing, maybe you're onto something. Maybe there's something about this, just being an engineer that maybe you would have cut your potential short. Like, to me, not that that's why I wake up in the morning, but that's what happens when you have a big enough vision, is that eventually people will realize that, you know what, maybe he's not as crazy as he sounds, right? Maybe she's not that crazy. And society, right? The societal impact of that. How many employees can you hire underneath you? How many people can you get to six figures? When you think of a big enough dream, there's enough room for other people to get rich along the way, to get wealthy. And to me, that's really now where I'm getting my head at, is how do I now make way more people successful? And as a result, I can grow as the collective sum of all of them. And confidence and certainty. When you have the ability to grow a business and you know what it takes to build something exponentially, there's just this, it's almost like breaking free of handcuffs, and you never worry about tough situations. Adversity becomes your friend because you just know, I know what I got to do now to get out of it. But making this decision of 100 days of intense focus, making this decision to go way beyond, way bigger, is incredibly difficult. I don't expect anyone in this room, especially for those who are brand new, this is probably not for you right now. Like I said, this is for someone who they've been in the program, they've got some clients, they got some wins, and they now know, okay, now I really want to take it to the next level. But this is a decision that will take some time. And there's 3 stages of this. This is probably, some of you in this room will fall into, they can devote about 10 to 20 hours a week into this business. Some will be 20 to 40 hours a week. And level 3, this to me is the all-in obsession. These are people who can just literally dive their head into this business full time. And just know that your goals have to match the ambition, right? Action has to match ambition. So if the goal is to go to some insane number, it's really interesting on apps, because sometimes people will say some insane number like, I want to get to 500 grand a month, right? Just ludicrous income. And I'll be cool. So look, one, I'll tell you how hard it is and give you realistic timeline. That's probably not feasible in anything short term. But what time are you looking at? Like, maybe like 5-6 hours a week. I'm like, you're delusional, right? So you have to have some sense of understanding realism. And you have to do this with 100% intensity. Cheesy animations, guys. Really cheesy animations. So I don't know if anyone here is a pilot, but in an airplane has to go, when it's taking off a runway, it has to go off at 100% full throttle. Otherwise, it will not go off that runway. It takes a lot of energy. The most energy an airplane puts is in landing and taking off. That's it, right? It's the hardest part of a plane. It's actually where most accidents occur too, right? It's just the plane getting off that runway. And so I have these really tacky slides. They're going to show you a plane that goes 20% intensity, which is how most people are in their business right now. And it just stays on the runway. Can you play that one again? Yeah. Oh, sure. And then we have 50% intensity, which is a plane that crashes, burns. And then lastly is 100% intensity. Now, the animation didn't even work that well for this, so it's a really jaggedy plane. But there we go. And we're now in the sky. So once a plane is in the sky, once a plane is in the air, it coasts. It doesn't use all its power. It doesn't use all its intensity. It gets to kind of coast and glide through just the force of air, because it broke through. It's kind of like a spaceship. Once you break through the stratosphere, then it's easy. Once you're in space, life becomes easier. This is actually how passive income works. And this is the biggest misconception I see in the internet space today, is this idea that passive income is this thing that you just get, and you just get one client and you just build a site and you just get it and you just keep going. Yeah, you can get some money coming in doing that. But what people don't understand is when you see these crazy stories of real passive income, real life change, there's that momentum, that taking off, the airplane taking off that runway, that was incredibly difficult. You have to break through the force and kind of compress the energy at some point to be able to hit that new band. And this is what we call the 1%ers, right? This is where all the hatred comes in the media about it, because it's like, why is it these people just chill out and they don't look that stressed? It's because they broke through that layer. They broke through this kind of invisible glass ceiling that we're all put under. But you need enough force to break it. Once you're in elevation, you can now have real time with your family. This is where you can actually live this quote unquote 4-hour work week that everyone talks about, right? And if you see your numbers dip, maybe once in a blue moon a client leaves or something comes up, or you need more money, or you want to go back in the business, you can come in, course correct, get the plane up. And there are course corrections. There are things that you'll kind of learn and adjust along the way. Just for the idea of what an all-in schedule could look like, this is what I'm talking about of something all in for a short period of time. Remember, I'm talking 100 days, right? A little over 3 months. Like, this is all in schedule. This is you're filling up your prospecting, you're filling up your backlinking, like you're doing all the technical things on off hours, and you're spending your day interfacing through the phone, through email, through whatever mechanism with business owners. This is what a person who does this can really go to new levels. These crazy numbers you hear, there's a period of time where we did something like this for a short period of time. And making sure that these are income producing activities, right? You're not filling your calendar with things that are the easy way out. Okay, I'm just going to go watch a YouTube video. Make sure that these activities are actually making you money. Anything that's cheaper than your hourly rate, figure out what you make, even if you're salaried, figure out how many hours you work, figure out that number. Anything cheaper than that, you should be outsourcing. You guys need to know what your hour's worth. It's really, really important. There's a lot of us, even if we're salary, it's kind of I call it, it's very clever because you don't think of yourself as an hourly employee because you get paid this yearly salary broken into months, but there's always an hour price to every human. Figure out what that is. And so that, to me, is the key, is when you know your numbers and you can play with these numbers and you get sold that even being 50% right, you'll still come out 200% ahead. That's going to allow you to take the sacrifice. But a lot of people, what I noticed is that you don't believe that the sacrifice is worth it. You haven't played with the numbers enough yet. You haven't really seen it, and you haven't seen it long enough, so you don't believe it. So why would someone sacrifice nights and weekends if they don't believe that plane will take off, right? Employees get paid on the time they spend. Entrepreneurs get paid on results. And this is another mindset shift that's really difficult for even myself. Is it's not just about working hard. It's about how much are you getting done in a day. And we need to stop judging people who appear to be working less, but they're getting more done. And that's why I believe in, once you make money, having systems and once you kind of outsource things like that, these things are important because at the end of the day, you have to write down what actually got accomplished today. No one cares about how much time you spent if you're not doing anything with that time. So I'll leave you with this, which is just for everyone here, if you're willing to, in a lot of ways, make your life a little bit worse, just a little bit worse for a short period of time, you can live your life in a way that people couldn't even imagine how you do it. And that's the thing for me. I actually went down a lifestyle, which is very counterintuitive, right? It seems very counterintuitive. Why would you get into a business and you're living cheaper? And you're buying less nice things, and you're eating out less, and you're working more. Why would you make your life so much worse when you're making more money? But to me, it was because I wanted to sacrifice to break through to that other layer, to break through to the atmosphere, to be able to do stuff that I know no one in my family can do. It's things that aren't feasible. So that's really my talk. So thank you.